Hey everybody, welcome to Pale in Comparison, a proud member of the Doof Network. In this podcast, my sister uses her knowledge of the Otherverse to take a look at Pact, Wildbow's least appreciated work, and I try to not give away any spoilers. I'm Jenny, and Malia convinced me to read Worm.
I'm Malia, and Jenny convinced me to read everything else. This episode, we are covering Collateral, chapters 4.9 and 4.10. Before we get into that, however, I'd like to issue a spoiler warning. This podcast is filled with pale spoilers. If you don't know whether Alpy ever stops complaining about work and don't want us to tell you, stop now, read Pale, and come back to this podcast. As for Pact, there will be full spoilers to the chapters we are covering.
Our summary for these chapters, Blake gets back to his apartment where he takes a super hot shower and scrubs out the filth from poos. He returns a call from Paige where they have a pretty intense conversation. The next morning, Fel drives Blake around and they talk about the imp's aura, and they also talk about Fel's past. Fel drops Blake off at the Knights of the Basement where Blake asks for help with conquests. He is given some information, equipment, and spells. The Knights also drop him off to face the hyena.
Dun dun dun.
Dun, 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 dun. So Blake, we'll start with, he gets to his apartment where he sees a note from his lovely landlord. He takes a really hot shower, and I don't blame him. I would be having that shit up to almost burning your skin with how disgusting it seemed. And he used some glamour as well to freshen up.
Yeah, I don't know. Everyone deserves a Joel in their life. And my concern currently is that Joel deserves a Joel in his life. And I hope that Joel has a Joel, you know?
Yeah. I mean, at least he gets to live with himself, I guess. You know?
But I feel like you buying yourself food and putting lasagna in your own fridge isn't nearly as nice as someone else doing that for
That
you.
is totally true. That's totally true. But I'm like, if Joel takes anywhere near good care of himself as he seems to take care of Blake, then, he's got it pretty good.
That's true. Yeah.
I'm trying to be optimistic. But hopefully he also has a Joel,
Yeah, I hope so. How can you be the Joel to someone else today? Just things to think about, He's so good. The shower's disgusting. We're gonna talk about Paige, obviously, but first we're gonna talk about how fucking gross this is. I talked about last chapter being distracted by how gross everything was to think about the contract, and I'm just like, ew.
It's like, you got on public transportation like that.
Oh my god.
Fleas everywhere. Just
this is another really great
at least I think he did, right? I guess Fel brought him home. Did he get on public transportation?
Or did he walk?
Maybe he walked.
He probably walked.
I mean, anyway, he got some stuff disgusting, right?
It's so bad.
It's bad.
And Wildbow reminds me of how bad it was by being like, oh, here's all the fleas and all the everything. The brown spots on his body were fleas and the water, and it's so fucking gross and just and then it's
that would make you want to shave your head off, right? Just to make sure you got all the disgusting stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty bad.
It's horrible. And then
oh, sorry, the very random thing I just thought of. That it's not relevant really, except I'm gonna say it because so I remember once I found because we have blanket warmers up in the hospital.
What's a blanket warmer?
It's amazing.
Okay.
It's basically picture a heated I don't know, a heated fridge or something that you just keep blankets in.
Wow.
And it's for patients, like to have warm blankets. It's like instead of having to put it's really nice. It's my favorite. I always tell people it's my favorite piece of hospital equipment, because I mean, yeah, it's awesome.
That's lovely.
Why wouldn't you want a blanket warmer? And they're really great most of the time. I'm guessing, I don't know exactly how this got in there, because usually, I mean, yeah, they tend to be very clean.
Oh no.
But I remember getting a blanket out for a patient once, when I worked on med surg floor, and there's a fucking flea on the blanket, and I was like, oh, that's disgusting. So I did what we usually, I mean, not that we catch bugs all over the place and everything, but if like a patient has bed bugs or something, usually try to catch one in a cup just as proof that they have bed bugs and they need to be on isolation. So I caught this flea and brought it to my director, I think at the time. It was just like, there's a flea in the blanket warmer. And then she was basically like, oh, that's gross. And then nothing happened.
Nothing happened.
Nothing happened, which I was like, okay.
That's horrifying.
Well, I'm going to not use this blanket, and I'm probably not going to use that blanket warmer. But I'm guessing maybe someone who had like, I don't know, like maybe a patient family member, if they had like a dog or something that had fleas, they just went and grabbed one. Yeah, I don't know.
It's unfortunate.
It is unfortunate. I will tell you, majority of the time, like, those are totally fine, and I have used, I mean, obviously not if they're like the only ones left, or if I actually have work to do, but I totally have used blanket warmer blankets before, and it's lovely, because it's like if you put it in like the dryer and it comes out all warm, except its literally whole job is to have warm blankets.
That's so nice. See, when you really said nice. Blanket warmer, I was thinking of like first I was like, oh, do you mean like an electric blanket? And then I was like, that's not what that's called. And then I was like, oh, but like, is this like those hand warmers? Like there's this hand warmers where you like crush them.
Oh, and they get warm for a while.
Warm and whatever. Yeah. And then I was like, is this like a blanket that you like crush? It exudes like uncomfortably strong amounts of heat until it dies. But no,
we do have like heated blankets at our hospital, or no, not even heated blankets. They're heating pads. And I'm sure it's different at different facilities and stuff, but like ours, it's basically like this big plastic sheet thing that hooks up to this tank where you put water in, and you plug the tank in, and it heats the water up, and it circulates through like the plastic sheeting thing.
Interesting.
And yeah, it's not really great to have it just on your skin, so we don't put it directly on people's skin, just because it's like a piece of plastic, and also if it gets too hot or whatever, yeah, so we always put, but it is kind of a nice piece of equipment as well. But I think there would possibly be some issues maybe with heat control, and also just like it's kind of nice if you can reuse some stuff.
Totally.
Yeah, but in terms of having like crushable things,
right.
Also, I mean, hopefully the hospital is not that fucking cold where you need like fucking hand warmers. Like,
well, that's why I was
use
like,
it in winter.
This is fascinating.
No, it's just a blanket warmer. It's just like a walk-in. Well, it's not a walk-in. It's not that big, but it's like a fridge, but heats it up.
That's lovely.
It's pretty sweet. Yeah, it is. Anyway, sorry. Back to the disgustingness. Anyway,
back to the gross. So then his eyelids slid open, and that's a lot to deal with and think about, and I don't want to. I'm glad that Blake has hydrogen peroxide. And then I was like, should I have hydrogen peroxide? Like, is that a thing adults have?
Dude, I think hydrogen peroxide's awesome, and not necessarily just because, like, you got to be careful, because I feel like a lot of people will just use it, like, gung-ho, and just pour it on, like, all their shit. Like if you got to... Yeah, like... that was probably good. I'm not gonna lie, because he was fucking disgusting. But like if you have generally in the hospital, like if you're going to use hydrogen peroxide, you dilute it like half and half, like with water or
Hmm.
with like saline or something,
Hmm.
just because it's pretty harsh, you know. So it's actually like it'll kill all the bugs, but it's gonna interfere with your wound healing.
Hmm.
So I wouldn't. It's just pretty harsh, you know. So it's like if you're really fucking disgusting, like a really nasty ass wound, go ahead and just pour it on there. But like, you know, it's strong. So, but one thing that it's great for, which I like always tell people this because I think it works amazingly, is getting out blood. Like
Oh,
it's
like from
so
clothes?
yes,
Oh.
it's so good for getting out blood. Like
Hmm.
it's amazing. Um, and if you're trying to get out blood from things, do not put it under hot water. Rinse it out with cold water. Because if you put it under hot water, that's going to actually cause like I guess it just causes it to like seize up in the clothing more. And so it makes
Interesting.
it harder to get out.
Hmm.
So cold water, but hell, like I'll just pour peroxide straight on there and it'll foam up. Sometimes you got to do it a couple times, but honestly, most of the time it gets it like out completely.
Wow. That's
Yeah.
awesome. Does it hurt the
Mm-hmm.
clothes?
I
Or
not
like
that I've
do
noticed.
it? Okay, cool.
I mean, maybe if you had something real fragile, but then again, um, I'd still rather try to make sure I get all the blood out because blood is a bitch to get out of clothes, like
Yeah.
without hydrogen peroxide, in my opinion. So at least like, you know, if I have my period and get blood on stuff, or if I get a cut and get blood on stuff, or if I have a bloody patient, you know, hydrogen peroxide, it's where it's at,
Cool.
guys.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. So it seems like adults maybe should have it, but they should also
I think
know
so.
how to use it.
Yeah, I just like if you have a wound, don't just pour it in there every day and expect it to like because I mean it's gonna be fun like bubbling up because you're gonna get some like organisms and stuff in there like some um you know you're gonna get some bacteria and stuff in there just because
Mhm.
it's a wound,
Mhm.
but like yeah, just be nice to your body, you know. You
Sure.
could like dilute it with some water or something, and use that to clean if you're real worried. But I feel like most of the time, if you're at home, like you're not gonna have that bad of a wound to where you need to constantly be cleaning it out.
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
I mean, and if you do,
Go to the
maybe you should go
hospital.
see a doctor. Yeah, because like if you need to have if you need to have like yeah wound care changes and like or packing or anything like that, yeah,
Mm.
that you kind of want overseen by a doc at least for them to tell you, make sure like you're doing what's good for the wound, you know.
Totally.
Yeah, because I mean different wounds are I mean need different things too. So
Mhm.
anyway, I feel like this is being very tangenty very early, so
It's okay. We gotta learn. I feel like these stories, I'm just like, now I know a little bit more about how to clean wounds.
yeah, I mean just like a lot of times soap and water, you know, is fine. But if it's really gross, sure you can use hydrogen peroxide. I'd still would probably recommend like diluting it, but doing it once, it's probably not gonna kill. It's not gonna hurt you too
Mhm.
much. I mean, it actually hurts like
Right.
to use, obviously, but um, as long as you're not really doing it more than that one time, like it'll be fine.
Cool.
I think. But especially if it's something that's looking infected, yeah, that definitely helps kill all
Mm.
that gunk. But yeah, yuck.
Ew. Ew. Yeah. Ew. This chapter's just ew. It's fine. Um.
All right,
Yeah.
sorry, let's go.
I'm also thinking about the tattoos, and like it's like I feel like I kind of get what's up with the tattoos, but I want a more direct explanation. You know, like I feel like the tattoos
Mm-hmm.
are like an indicator of how is Blake? How is Blake's self? And I just I want I want like a decipher guide or something. Like I want some sort of clear like this is what this means and this is definitely
Hmm.
I don't know.
Well, I mean, we kind of get to see into Blake's perspective as well, than to see him figuring it out as well, right? So
That's true.
he probably will get it along with him as he kind of just figures it
Yeah.
out, I would think.
Yeah. Yeah. I just feel like I want the moment where it's like very clearly laid out for me. And I don't know if I'm gonna get it. But it's okay.
Well, it's a wild bow story, so not looking great, but you never know. You
Yeah.
never
He
know.
likes to explain neat story building and or world building and shit, you
Oh,
know?
sure, but he doesn't tend to like just give it to you on a plate and it's like, here
Totally.
you go,
Totally.
but yeah.
Totally. Speaking of things that are not handed on a plate that I'm figuring out is like the locket,
Mm-hmm.
um, or like the glamour, the hair.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, the hair became more wire like and it became like spiky, or like it made the chain of the locket spiky. Was it the imp that fucked with the glamour that then fucked with the other stuff? Is it just like, is it fusing and becoming more chain like and wire like because it's just like, I live in this locket now, this is who I am? Is it
Hmm.
like, is the locket silver and it's like pissed and it's like, I don't like winter, I don't like this? I feel like it would have reacted faster and probably would have just disintegrated. Um,
Hmm.
but yeah, I like that Blake uses this opportunity to like make the glamour thingies. I'm glad he's keeping up with that, even if the whole like, haha, I'm making this ink stuff is kind of interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, someday somebody will be like, "Hi, what are you doing?" But it works. I mean, I don't know. He's he's good at dis. I, so I guess I was a little surprised that he decides to use the glamour like in the middle of the night like this. Like you're gonna go to
Hmm.
bed, right? Like
Yeah, but I mean, he's trying to get more cleaned up and just feel more like
better.
whole, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I guess I could see doing your eyelid and the gouge in your leg and stuff. But I don't know. When I was thinking about like putting glamour on and then going to bed, I feel like I imagine it like rubbing off in the night, you know?
Like going to bed with makeup on.
Yeah. I was just like, what are you doing?
Yeah. So the difference is, I feel like if you go to bed with makeup on, you usually feel more disgusting in the morning, or at least I do.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm like, face is going to break out and I'm smeared all over my damn face. Whereas, like, I'm assuming with glamour, uh, at least the parts that you want to stay that way, like, are actually going to stay, you know?
Yeah, yeah, probably.
But
Um,
it is kind of similar, I guess. It's basically like fairy makeup.
yeah. And I mean, I guess he probably doesn't like thrash or whatever at night because the whole like physical impact breaks glamour. But yeah, most people I don't think like
Yeah, I doubt like he
violently
has
kick
an
things or
impact.
whatever.
Yeah, like it's not having the equivalent of being punched in the face while he's sleeping, you know?
Oh, that would suck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
Okay.
karma wise, sure, but I could see it. But uh but yeah, I don't think so. I think he's
Yeah.
all right.
Yeah. Well, speaking of him glamoring things, I just find the fact that he wants to glamour over his old scars to be like real sad. Um, but also just like a really great way of Wildbow getting into Blake's head a bit without it being like, hello, I have not dealt with my
All my
past.
shit.
Right,
Yeah.
but being like, hello, Blake has not dealt with his shit. Like, I feel like someone who had totally come to terms with the scars might not want to cover them or might not think about it. But Blake's like, huh, I don't have a lot of this glamour yet left, but fuck yeah, I'm gonna cover these up. And it just like, I don't know, it makes me sad, but it's also very relatable.
Yeah, it's sad, but it's also kind of makes me happy for him at the same time. Like he just needs a little bit of a break, you know.
That's
And it's
fair.
like if that's if that's enough to help him, like, you know, move on with the, go on to the next day with all the crap he has to do, and give him a little bit more like confidence and uh help reinforce his self a little bit more. I'm like, I don't blame him for it.
Totally.
All right. We're gonna go on to the next part, which is he basically sees Paige is called a
Paige!
couple times. Um are you okay?
I've been waiting for this.
Well, he calls her back and they end up having a pretty intense conversation, after which he writes a letter to future Thorburn heirs. All right.
Paige. um so the first time I read this I was like, Paige, oh my god. And the second time, or like, and then I thought about it and I was like, wait, none of that made any fucking sense. And this is another one of those moments where I'm really doubting myself because I'm like, is this like, this isn't supposed to make sense and Wildbow is leaving breadcrumbs? Or is this just like, you know, Pact isn't quite as airtight as Pale, for instance, and if Paige seems like if things seem like they're not quite adding up, is that just like me not fully understanding the details, or like is it me or is it Wildbow? And that's where I'm at. um so Paige lives in Toronto for school, it seems like, and that's chill. She has a roommate, she's living her life or whatever. And then it's like Joel is on top of shit, right? Joel knows what's
Yeah.
up. Joel goes to Blake's apartment and hangs out and watches things, right? I think Joel would have been like, "Hello, Blake, the police were here looking for you." Um, but he didn't say that, which suggests to me that the police have not been here looking for Blake, right?
Yeah.
But Paige was here, and I don't understand how Paige knows where Blake lives. Um, like none of them had contact with Blake before the night Grandma Rose dies, and then
Yeah.
it doesn't seem like they had contact after that. I don't understand how she could have known where he lives, because I was like, oh, maybe the police mentioned where he lives, but then what if the police have fucking gone by his goddamn apartment to be like, hello, missing person? But it like they didn't, and she came by, and I'm like, wait, what? um and then she like doesn't come across great in this conversation. um
Yeah.
I mean, I get that she's like stressed, and one of her cousins is dead and the other one's weird and the police are coming around or whatever, apparently. um and she is just, but she just like is like, oh, like I earned that money, and Blake's kind of like, okay. Like she just
Yeah.
is like, it should be mine, and I'm kind of like, don't you see that it's really toxic and maybe you shouldn't?
I mean, look at the family they've come from, though,
I know.
I mean, you're totally right. And yeah, she definitely does not come off great in that conversation for sure.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah.
I I just the thing that really just like stabbed me in the heart or whatever was when he was like, I don't know, Blake said something and she was like, but like, you don't know me, like we don't know each other, like why would you say that? Like you don't even know me, we weren't friends. And I was just like, what the fuck? Like she
Like, you're being really shit right now.
you're being really shit right now, and also she was so hurt that Blake didn't reach out to her before he ran away.
Yeah.
Like
Well,
she brings that up in the house, you know?
also keep in mind she doesn't have to worry about being super accurate when she's talking, right?
Yeah, I know. I feel like this could be just
Lashing out.
something, right? But then it also feels like maybe this isn't Paige. I don't know.
This isn't Paige.
I don't know. We'll get to my like ridiculous prediction has to do with Paige this week. So
Perfect.
we can get into it later.
All right.
But it feels off. It feels very off.
Okay.
But it also might just be that like she was in one chapter forever ago and I don't actually know her. Maybe it's like, reader, you don't know me.
That could be it. But I'm very curious to see what your prediction's going to be.
I don't have. Yeah, okay, we'll get there.
Yeah, we'll get there. That's fine.
I thought it was funny, like narratively, that Blake fucks up and is like mentions that Molly's murdered. Even though it was like, oh, you fucked up. It was pretty funny. But then yeah, so she's like Blake. She's like freaked out about Blake disappearing. But if she thought that the police were just worried about Blake disappearing and not thinking that he was like a murder suspect, why wouldn't she be like, oh, Blake lives at this address? And then the police would go over and look for him there. Because again, like, it seems like the police don't know where he lives because they would have showed up. And it seems like she does know where he is, and I don't understand how she knows where he lives. And also, but I feel like if you were like, if the police showed up and were like, hey, your cousin's missing, and your other cousin kind of went missing and like accidentally froze to death or whatever, I would have been like, oh, fuck. My cousin lives here. Can we go check on them? If I knew where my cousin lived, right?
Yeah.
This doesn't make sense. Okay. I really like that he almost calls her Rose. It made me sad, but also kind of happy. Like, I feel like he misses Rose, and it was just like, oh yeah, you're like arguing with a girl around your age. Like, of course you think it's Rose. And just like, oh, I don't know. I miss her. It's been like 2 chapters, or maybe 4.
I know.
I miss her. I hope she's okay. Yeah, but this conversation's real tense and funny, and Blake's exhausted and making like mistakes, but it seems like he's telling the truth, and he's doing a good job with that. I also really like when Paige is like, well, what if I go to the police or whatever? And Blake's like, then I forgive you. And I was like, damn.
Yeah, that's pretty great.
So it was a really great line, but it's also like, then he forgives you. Like he gets it. He gets that this is insane. And I just,
yeah, Blake's pretty wonderful.
He's so good. I love him. And he loves Paige even when she's being a bitch.
Yeah. Which is a little understandable, but also it's like, you really need to get your fucking priorities straight. Yeah. Like, and yeah. Definitely not handling shit well, but which I'm like, maybe that's another good reason that you didn't get the shit, like that you weren't the next heir. Because maybe you aren't gonna emotionally handle all this stuff quite the best way.
Right.
Maybe, maybe that's a little bit reaching, but
yeah.
So he writes a letter. Yes.
Before he writes the letter, he also is like, I normally eat standing up. And I'm like, what the fuck, Blake? Like, damn it. I mean, like, if he eats standing at the counter, I guess that's okay. But if he just stands there with his fucking plate and eats, like, with his plate in his hand, that's like sociopath. Like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, you have a table, like, sit at it. Like, what's going on?
I don't know. Maybe it's just like something he's used to. Like, I don't. Maybe when he was. This is like big speculation here. Like nothing here, but like maybe when he was homeless, like sitting down to eat left him too vulnerable. Yeah. So if he was standing up, at least he could like run away or
right.
move if someone
This
was
is
trying
so
to fuck with him.
depressing.
Yeah.
Every time I'm like, Blake, this thing about you is sort of weird. Johnny's like, hey, have you considered that you might be a judgmental asshole? And I'm like, wow, I haven't considered that.
That's a little harsh.
No, that's really you're not saying that. That's how I feel.
No, you're fine. No, it's just a different perspective. That's all.
Definitely.
Yes.
I guess he was eating with Maggie. I think he was eating standing, but that felt very like I must eat immediately, and I'm frenzied because I don't take care of myself.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But the letter, I really like that he addresses it to Rose, even though it makes me sad. I hope. I don't know. Oh, Rose. It was also like, oh, it seems like he writes out like all the shit that's happened to him, and I'm kind of like, where is this letter? Like, where did you put it? Will someone find it? Like, fuck. Those are my feelings.
I mean, I'm okay. All right. Well, in that
oh
case,
wait,
we'll
he doesn't. Wait, he didn't mention
Okay.
Briar Girl in the goddamn bullet points.
Well, to be fair, he's fucking exhausted, but
Sure.
that is kind of a fuck up.
I mean, like, I think it's funny that Johannes was mentioned, even though we haven't fucking seen Johannes in like 2 arcs, almost 3 arcs, and we literally just were like, Briar Girl, we'll give you some of the forest if you're like even a little bit chill, and he just doesn't mention that at all. I mean, maybe he mentioned it eventually, which is kind of funny.
I mean, maybe he'll edit it later if he survives. You know,
maybe.
All right. Next, Blake kind of passes out, but then he wakes up in the morning, and Fel picks him up. Ends up trying to make him uncomfortable with his driving. Blake has a really good poker face with that. They end up talking about the imp's aura. Blake also finds out about Fel's past. They drive by the hyena's realm and see a bunch of ghosts.
Before I forget, speaking about the imp, Elliot messaged us and mentioned that the pronunciation of the imp is like paus. It's 2 syllables.
Paus.
Apparently they pronounced it wrong so many times that Bo was finally like, can you fucking not?
Well, if you just had everyone gave everyone easy names like Jerry,
Paus,
then we wouldn't have to mispronounce all your stuff.
Yeah.
Paus.
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 Yeah.
Okay.
We'll try to remember that.
All right. We're going to try, but no promises. Didn't he also tell us Patrick was okay instead of Podrick, and that's why we've been saying Patrick? Because I feel like some people have been like, it's not Patrick, right? But I'm pretty sure.
Well, I feel like
I think he did message that to us, right? That was a okay way to say. Or am I just making shit up?
I don't fully remember. What I remember is that in the book they explicitly are like, "Hey, Patrick," for 1 fucking chapter or whatever, and then they go back to Podrick or Patrick. But I was like, well, if the book's his name's Patrick, I'm just gonna go with it.
Hey, you know what? I mean, that's fine.
Speaking of which, God, we need to get back to Jacob's Bell. I'm done with these bitches. I like the Knights of the Basement and stuff a lot. And I'm, Fel's becoming more and more interesting, but
We're not even at that part yet. I didn't talk about the Knights of the Basement.
Right, no, I'm just saying, these people, I'm forming emotional connections to them, but I don't want to. I want to go home. I want to go home and find out how Patrick fucks everyone up.
You should thank your lucky stars that Jacob's Bell isn't your home. Because
thank you. Thank you.
You would not be wanting to go fucking
Thank you,
home.
Lord.
You'd be like, let me get me back to Texas, get me back to Maui, like get me to Nebraska, just somewhere that's not
Not here.
there.
Totally.
Yeah.
You're right.
I mean, I don't know, maybe not Nebraska, but nothing
That could be
against
chill.
Nebraska. I don't know anything about Nebraska except that
Our
it's one of those
grandparents
places.
lived there for a bit, right?
Yeah, I think so. They had land there.
Something about
that, they just never sold, and then
Right.
they kept having more kids, and so there was it had to be it finally got sold, but
Did it get
had to be
sold?
split.
Okay.
I don't know. I'm just assuming.
Well, because I think
hopefully
it was
someone sold it.
It wasn't just their land. It was maybe
Well, it was
somebody's
it's getting
parents' land, because it
ridiculous,
was dad's cousins too, right? It wasn't just our cousins. It was dad's cousins.
It's like 30 people have a claim on this little piece of land. Like everyone's gonna get like $50 now. So it's like, just sell the damn thing already. There's literally no reason. It was a good thought. But
Yes.
yeah, it should have probably been sold or taken care of a long time ago.
Yeah.
Does this mean we need to go to Nebraska?
Figured it
we
out.
Got roots.
Yeah, I think it'd be fun. Someday.
I mean, would it? Maybe.
Just stop by.
Stop by, be like, hey, we're
we have Lincoln, and then there's, is it Omaha?
I don't freaking know, man.
I
don't know anything.
Omaha is kind of poppin'. I don't remember which one is supposedly more.
Omaha is poppin'. That's probably the only time in this decade someone has said Omaha is poppin'. Okay.
If any of you are from or have been to Nebraska, tell us something nice about it.
Yeah, cool. I'm not trying to offend anybody, but it's not one of those states you hear a lot about.
Is Nebraska the state where they have more cows than people?
I mean, probably. Let's be real. That sounds like it.
I love it.
I found I heard a good fact that got debunked when I looked it up, or I would have picked it as my fact. So I'm going to tell you all this false fact. That is basically that cows moo in different regional accents, which would have been really cool. But apparently, it's not really true.
Bummer.
I know, bummer. But I mean, hell, if you want to believe it, why not? I mean, I don't think we just haven't proved it. All you have to do is find that one group of cows that moves slightly differently, and then there you go.
And then everyone's life becomes better,
whether they know it or not. Let's be like, oh, the sun's shining a little brighter, the air's a little crisper. I wonder what's going on in the world. And they might never know that someone discovered that cows moo in different accents, regional accents. But you will, because I'm sure you're going to keep up with this fact, Well,
I've also heard that cows have best friends, which is so fucking cute.
Oh, I've heard that too.
So cute.
That is really cute. Cows are really cute.
Cows are so cool. They're also really fucking big.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's true.
Big. I feel like a lot of animals are a lot bigger than I thought they were.
Because you see, yeah, I mean, it's different seeing a picture versus seeing them in person and being like, oh, this thing could easily kill me.
It's so big.
Yeah. I was terrified by the cow when I almost got hit by one in my car.
Right.
That's right.
That was scary.
I'm glad. I still don't know if our parents believe me, but I was driving, just to tell all you guys, on Maui. I was driving back from it was like a family friends get together thing, and I think I stayed back a little bit later than my parents because a couple of my friends were there, and I was driving back at 11 at night, and driving across from on the highway from our old elementary school, Kamali, and there were a couple of cop cars parked on the side of the road, and Hawaii has a stupidly slow speed limit, so I was like, oh, I better slow down, and I was going 30, which is not, which I want to say was around the speed limit of that area on the highway. And then there was a fucking cow that like
Wasn't it like almost a bull? Like it was,
no, it
or was it
wasn't
just a
even a
cow?
bull. It was a cow. It was just a cow that I guess like because we have like there's grazing lands that are all over the place. I guess that somehow it had got over the fence or whatever, and it was like by the elementary school commonly. And something about my black Nissan pickup truck just freaked her the fuck out, and she just charged at like my car, and I just like kind of freaked out and pushed on the gas and just like maybe like 6 inches. Like it was close. Okay. And that could have done some fucking damage. And then, I mean, I guess I get why, but I was really, I went home and, you know, my parents were like asleep and I like barged and was like, I almost just got hit by a cow. And they were just like, oh, that's nice. You know, and they were like, let me go to sleep. And I was really like, you know, I was hoping there'd be something in the news about an
About the
escaped cow
cow.
and just so I could have some vindication. And I mean, I get, you know, I get, yeah, it's Hawaii. Like there's not a lot. I feel like they could have fit that in somewhere, but I'm guessing no one called to report an escaped cow to Maui News.
True.
And so no one knows except I guess me, and Malia believes me.
I do.
So yeah,
I've always believed
but
you.
I appreciate that because you know just starts to make you think that you're making stuff up. But no, it was yeah, it was. I'm just glad I didn't get hit by the cow. I don't know how insurance would have covered that, but anyway.
Anyway,
Back to the prompt.
Right.
That's right.
I appreciate that Blake confirms that a goblin seems like it should be easier to deal with than an abstract demon. Like I felt like I was going nuts. And he was like, let's deal with the goblin first. And I was like, yes. But I guess like narratively we do go to meet the knights before we go to deal with the goblin. So that is justifying the structure
Oh, okay. Yeah,
of
I
all
guess
those
that's
conversations beforehand.
true. Mm-hmm.
But yeah, Fell's backstory. Let's talk about this.
Yes.
This sucks. Practitioner
Yeah.
families fucking suck.
They do.
Someone should have been like, the knowledge is not worth it. I don't know, like someone should have been like, hi, don't do this.
Like, yeah, like fucking stop.
Because like I can totally see, like, I mean, I guess knowledge is not wisdom, and that's important. But I feel like with like Solomon, the story, when you're like, you know, a little Christian or maybe Jewish kid, I don't know if they have the exact same interpretation or whatever. But it's like, oh yeah, Solomon asked for wisdom, and that's why he got all this cool shit. And like, you should ask for wisdom because wisdom's better and it'll make you awesome. And I could see my 12-year-old self who thought she was like better than everyone else being like, yeah, I'll take knowledge. I can handle whatever. I'm like, no, you can't.
Yeah. Like, no, you fucking can't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
it does suck.
Most of his family's dead because they do whatever Conquest wants, and the his brother was the guy in Maggie's story,
right?
And that was just like,
I know. Like, I guess at least he's free.
Yeah. And the sister, I want to know who this is and if we ever meet her, because that sounds kind of cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, it just sucks. I don't know.
It does.
Yeah. And then it was like, Rose is shackled like Fell, and I was like Fell, like that's a lot. That seems real bad.
Yeah.
It seems like we have to defeat Conquest because we got to get out of that situation.
Yeah. No, it fucking sucks.
Yeah.
It's a bad situation.
It's not great. But yeah, we're driving around and we see the half-eaten ghost lady. And my question is, why haven't we used the term echo yet?
Because I don't know, reasons. I mean, Blake probably. I mean, it would take Blake a while to get used to changing everything over, like to Echo in terms of Ghost, because he's used Ghost his whole life for that kind of thing.
I guess.
And then Fell. I don't know. He just says Spectre. So
Right. It seems like specters are like damaged echoes.
Hmm.
Who follow the goblin guy around or the hyena around because he's eaten part of them and they can't rest, and that sucks so bad.
It
Except
sucks a lot.
they can't. I'm like, wait, they don't rest if they're echoes.
Yeah.
Like echoes aren't spirits. They're just. I mean, they're spirits. They're not souls. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So they don't need to be put to rest. They just need to stop existing. I don't know, man.
I mean, most people would say you can't eat ghosts either, but you know.
I feel like the Ghostbusters would disagree. I actually haven't seen that movie in a really long time, but I
Oh.
feel like
Is Ghostbusters canon to this universe?
Sure, why not?
That's funny.
I feel like if you can eat ghosts in Ghostbusters, you can eat ghosts in Pale.
There's your title.
It's a little long. Well, yeah, we'll think about it. But yeah, Belle's really growing on me. I mean, obviously there's like this bit of sympathy, and it's just really like it's so fucking rude, but it's also really funny when he's like, "Do you want me to wait for you or whatever?" And he's like, "Yeah, wait for me."
Yeah, please.
And then he just drives off immediately. I was like, "This is such a fucking dick's move!" Like, oh my god.
Yeah, that's pretty dicks, man.
That was so unnecessary.
Yeah.
But yeah,
it's pretty funny though.
it was so fucking rude. I love it.
Wow. On that note, Blake gets to the Knights of the Basement headquarters, which is a great name. Blake tries to get them to help with conquests. He ends up getting information, equipment, and spells, and learns a bit more about the Splinter Demon.
Splinter. I liked how he got their attention, kind of like, oh, I want to stop conquest. But then the chapter they were just sort of like, oh, like conquest isn't our enemy; he's just a problem, which is like fair. But I don't know. I guess it is intriguing to be like, hello, I would like to stop the Lord of this area.
Yeah.
I also, when he's like comments on their name and says something about board games, and they're like, yeah, sort of. I'm like, was this like a fucking D&D group and they all awoke together? Because that's incredible. And I really love it. But like thinking about who these people were before the Splinter, like, I wonder if the Knights of the Basement isn't really their name. I feel like maybe they kind of even mentioned that at one part, but like I feel like they've just been so splintered and so broken and so degraded. Like maybe they weren't dabblers, you know, like maybe they knew and remembered and had different things that they did. They were like, we used to have lives, and it was just like,
I know.
It's so awful. And like the concept of like I think his name's Nick's son's girlfriend.
Yeah.
I think is it Marnie?
Marcy.
Marcy. Yeah. How like she lost too many people that she was connected to, and she just sort of like wandered off, and he's like, I can't remember her face, and it's just like,
I know.
It's so awful. It's just so awful. I mean, I'm like excited to confront this thing, but I'm just so sad. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, the Knights of the Basement are really cool and sad and seem like stand-up people. And
Yeah, they're pretty cool.
yeah. Um, I thought it was interesting them going through the different players in Toronto. And I don't have like a ton to say about any of them necessarily. Um,
Mm-hmm.
the Eye of the Storm was really freaky, and we're definitely gonna come into conflict with that at some point.
Okay. Yeah. No, definitely. They went over a lot of information about those people and everything.
Right? I just
Um.
like I found it all really interesting. I'm just not sure if there's anything that's necessary for the moment. I mean, it seems like the Sphinx and the Astrologer are two of the more important, and then the Eye of the Storm are probably the most important ones. The Shepherd sounded really neat and possibly useful in a situation where you're dealing with echoes, but then again, echoes aren't souls. So,
Yeah.
yeah. And then toward the end, where Blake's like, the propaganda had a point, I was like, no, Blake. Except then the propaganda apparently asked the question that I was sort of thinking about, I think, maybe last week or the week before, but like the idea of like, if the Diabolists don't bind the demons, who will? Like,
Yeah.
does trying to deal with and hunt down. I mean, like, I guess maybe if you absolutely will never do anything other than like destroy demons, you're not a Diabolist. But if you're trying to like bind them, it seems like you are. And so,
Hmm.
who, and a lot of these things are too powerful to
Yeah.
just straight up destroy. So,
Mm-hmm.
how do you deal with them?
That's a good
I don't know.
question.
It's hard. Um, and then at the end of the conversation, where Blake like fucking hits on Nick super hard, like I know it wasn't necessarily supposed to be romantic, but it was just this like fucking smooth ass line where it's like, "You gave me your gun. Don't suppose you'll give me your name?" And I was like, "This is like super badass cowboy shit," but it's also just like, I don't know. This sounds like a pickup line. Like I love it so
That's
much.
hilarious. I did not. I did not think of that until you said that. That's pretty funny.
Yeah,
That's pretty damn funny.
it was amazing. I my summer internship ended this past week, and so I had to say goodbye to one of my friends she lives in Arkansas, and she was, in Austin for the summer. And I went and, gave her a hug and stuff, and then I said like, "Oh, we can still be friends." And then I like laughed, and I was like, "It sounds like I'm breaking up with you." And then I was just like, and then every single thing, then my other coworker and friend started like listing off a whole bunch of like cliched breakup things that would also relate to the situation of like our job ending and us moving back to, you know, where we live. It was just really funny.
That's funny.
Yep.
That's
We can
pretty good.
still talk and like this doesn't change anything. I don't know, just a whole bunch of stuff.
Oh,
We'll always have the
jeez.
summer. Like
Oh my gosh.
it was really ridiculous.
That's great. All right. Well, on that note, basically, we end this chapter with Teddy, one of the knights, drops Blake off at the hyena's realm. Blake interacts with some echoes.
Yeah, I have like very small amount of notes in this section because I was mostly just like, what is happening? Um, he has a chain, he has quieting runes, he has a gun, and then it's like this one echo freaks out and starts following him and makes him feel like the pain of some horrible accident, and then he runs up into a tree, and then there's a child that he noticed earlier who's like wearing a hoodie, but I think it's a ghost child. I don't know. And then, but it's not a hurt ghost child,
Hmm.
and it disappears, and the hyena's like down there and sees him or some shit. And I was like, well, this sucks. I don't know. I don't think he's safe in the tree. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah. I also feel like there's a chance maybe like the child isn't an echo and I'm just wrong. But
What do you think it would be otherwise? Some random kid that just is literally there trying to run away.
yeah, I guess that doesn't really make sense. The thing that makes the most sense is if it's an echo, because it reminds me of the kid who, like, the echo who would run in front of the car or whatever that Verona was chasing. Yeah, so it probably is. I felt like I was kind of overwhelmed by the details in that section and wasn't totally sure if I was understanding it correctly.
Yeah, fair enough. All right. Well, now we're going to go on to our pale in comparison section.
Woo.
Yay! So, I know you wrote down possibly comparing how you talked to innocents about practice-related things. If I also might say compare Fell's driving to Matthew's driving.
Huh. I have to remember Matthew's driving now. I feel like Matthew is like steady and reliable, you know.
Yeah.
He's gonna go and you can ride in the back and you're gonna
It's
be
pretty
safe.
good for having your eyes gouged out, you know.
What?
Well, you know, because he technically doesn't have like eyes, right, Matthew? Because he's heartless. Remember?
I thought they grew back. I thought he just had like
I don't think so.
dark eyes.
I
I didn't
think
think he didn't have eyes. What?
Because he freaking had to get, like, his parents made him gouge him out for the practice.
Do I just like not remember this at all?
Yeah, that or I'm just making shit up from my brain, but I'm pretty sure he doesn't have eyes.
If you Google Matthew Pale, you'll get an industrial hygienist.
There you go. No. Industrial hygienist. Yeah, that's Matthew and Pale. That's pretty fucking broad.
Hey, I googled, what was it? Like God Boy Pale and Ulysses came up. Okay, Matthew Moss. Blur 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 blur. Age ?
Appearance. Oh, okay. Oh, it says to the sight, his eyes are permanently in shadow. So I still took that at least as to be his, because I mean I'm pretty sure they like his parents made him gouge his eyes out. You don't remember that part? I was making shit up.
No, I believe you.
I mean, feel free.
Again, I'm not great at picking up on details in Pale, and I haven't reread that part yet.
Those tiny details of gouging your eyeballs out.
Well, was this in like Edith's chapter, or did he tell a story?
I think so. Okay. I think it's an Edith's interlude.
Okay.
I mean, I could have I could be misremembering, but
no,
I feel like.
Well, because I thought with Heartless, like the stuff will come back eventually.
Maybe, I don't know. See, that's one like detail I probably missed.
Well, like when he like kills the guys or does whatever with the people who bound to Edith, he like removes his sense of empathy or something, and he's like, I'll feel horrible about this later. Because like it was gonna come back. I don't know if that refers to or if that's true. The same with your eyes.
I don't know. Well, I mean, I'm sure we'll find out when someone comments and tells me when I'm wrong or vice versa. You know, it's fine. But
but yeah, he's 13-year-olds can ride in the back of his truck, and he's gonna be great. Whereas Fell is like, I hate you, Blake, and I'm gonna drive real fast.
Drive real fast.
Real fast.
And I'm gonna ask you what you want.
On ice.
On ice. Explicitly do the opposite of what you ask. Yes.
Be begrudgingly impressed by your evident not giving a fuck about how dangerously I'm driving.
Which I
Yeah.
love, because it's like you could tell Blake is bothered by it because he keeps mentioning it, like he's
Oh,
still
yeah.
not slowing down.
Oh,
And
yeah.
then he's like, I'm not fucking giving you the satisfaction. And then
It's
he's
like,
just
I'm
like,
on a motorcycle.
and then he's just like, all right, fine, I'll go back to normal speed.
Yeah, I like them.
I almost wonder, since he's not allowed to do anything to hurt himself, if he had gotten in a car accident and hurt himself, what would that mean?
I wonder if there's some sort of intent requirement, you know? Because presumably
Yeah, maybe.
if, an accident happens, I don't know.
That's true.
Yep.
All right. Well, on that note, I suppose we'll go to Malia's bold and specific prediction.
Woo!
Woohoo!
So the thing I've written down is weird, and I don't have this fully fleshed out. Okay. My prediction is that that's not Paige. I'm wondering if somehow that's like a version of Paige that was influenced from like Rose's version of Paige, who was more of a bitch. The thing though is like it probably can't be an other or practitioner because she was saying things that I don't see how they could have been true for other people to say about like deserving the money and stuff. But it feels like there are a lot of logical things about that weren't adding up. And maybe it's just like, oh, she can literally lie. But like, how could she have gotten to the goddamn apartment? This is where
That's
I'm
some
at.
sneaky shit.
Yeah.
All right. So it's not Paige. It's a trick of some kind.
It's not really Paige. She's either been like changed with the magic, or it's someone disguised as Paige because we didn't see her. I don't know.
Okay.
We didn't see her. Joel didn't know her name because he didn't write it down. Glamour exists. I don't know, man.
Okay. All right. I like it. It is bold and specific.
I'm trying.
All right.
Okay, y'all. It's just me recording the discussion question answers this week. So here we go. The Discord was kind of a mess, and I'm going to try my best to pluck out all the answers that I can find from within it. It was a really fun week of discussion, but some of these I'm not entirely sure if they're actual answers. Speaking of, Blake Tall asks if they can take Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson as their familiar, and that they would also settle for St. Peter. And I had to shout this out because I fucking love St. Peter. And yes, I mean, this is OP and not really the point, but also yes. Alex V hadn't finished listening to the episode, didn't know what the discussion question was, but decided to preemptively answer with the Halley Comet or the moon. Both of those totally fair. Excalibur says that they would go up to northern BC and find a small jade boulder. And they would carve it into a stone anvil. And they would make it their implement. They might even want to do this even if they weren't forced to choose a stone. They think that the declarative aspect of this anvil is an intent to make things, and also planning and precision, without focusing on them. There's a lot in this discussion question, so I'm skimming over it a little bit, but it's really interesting. They think the authoritative aspect, an anvil is first and foremost a surface. You can draw diagrams. There's flatness. Other things conform to it. There's a lot of issues surrounding that. It's all pretty interesting. And then there's a whole big conversation about anvils and how mobile they are, which was fun and interesting. And I learned a lot about anvils. Spinagon says that they would take the spirit of the Tunguska meteoroid. Supposedly it disintegrated in the air, but probably left a pretty strong spirit. And only the Chicxulub could defeat them if they had this. I'm very sorry about my pronunciation. Okay. A bird would take the spirit of perfect skipping stones, which is adorable, and I love it so much. Solid, dependable, fun for periodic use. But maybe there could be some sort of like Goliath righteousness, but Captain America style stone. They think that it would lead them more toward solidity and doing the right things at the right time. Be able to get around some of that mobility aspects, and be able to mean something to a stranger at the right moment, like finding that perfect rock. A precious moment, but that's not meant to be hoarded. I think that's adorable. Elliot would choose the Philosopher's Stone because reasons. Or a Goron because reasons. Koro starts thinking about regional rock spirits, like a little pebble beach on the shore of Lake Ontario, and that looks like a dull gray from far away, but when you get up close, you can see there's bright red granite and smooth lumps of quartz and green and blue and purple all scattered among it. I think that borrowing from the site would be kind of similar to borrowing from Snowdrop's site, being able to look at things and seeing interesting things brought out when you get to look at them up close. Yeah. There's also a thought about famous fossil beds and other sorts of things like that that could be associated with looking for rocks in the ground. Kind of a longer post again, but also super, super interesting. Moving on to Reddit, Maisie1 says that as an Aussie, they think that their first thought for a famous rock was Uluru. But they think that since they're not indigenous from the area or have ever been there, that's probably a bad idea and probably better suited to some sort of domain combo. So they might choose the Tenterfield Weather Rock, which is a relatively famous landmark near them. It's a big rock, but they could still carry it around, which is important for an implement. They think they would get on well with the sardonic wit that this rock would probably possess, and they could walk around together, always intimately aware of the current weather. They hope that this rock would help them not miss obvious things. They tend to get into their own head and overcomplicate things, and Tenty, this lovely rock whose name they might choose, could be around to point out obvious things like, rocks. Tizarat says that they would choose a piece of rock containing the fossil of a Spinosaurus tooth, which might not be famous, but cool if you're a paleontologist, hoping that it would give them qualities of longevity, history, and research or insight into the past. And they think that for a familiar, it'd be really fucking cool to have a 16-meter, 7.5-ton carnivore on their side. For those of you who don't know, apparently the Spinosaurus is the largest terrestrial carnivore known of, which is pretty cool. They could also swim. Maisie1 agrees that Spinosaurus is objectively the coolest dinosaur, so the more you know. It seems like Beard of Valor is a bit skeptical about any benefits that a rock familiar implement could possess, which, fair, I suppose. However, there might be some merit to a rock implement familiar, and they talk about Clem as an example. She has a super hyper narrow focus when it comes to like her awareness. And so maybe someone who similarly has a super narrow focus could use something like a rock, which is just, a blunt, uncomplicated rock, to help kind of curb the super preciseness. Could give the practitioner more control simply by blunting the influence where the influence is so sharp and narrow like Clem's thing. As a pet or familiar, could be like a release valve, event, or a pressure release for the divine influence. The bee vampire admits that they might be stretching the prompt a bit because they're talking about a statue, but this statue was carved out of a single rock. They would pick the monolith, which is a 17-meter tall statue depicting human figures clinging together in Frogner Park. It's one of the most famous rocks in Norway. And apparently their great-grand-uncle owned the land the original stone was brought out of, which is really freaking cool and definitely would give you better claim over it than just, some other rando. It has symbolic ties to humanity, resurrection, and spirituality. They would use it as like a stationary power source and a focal point for large-scale practice. Could possibly gain some cool power from the human attention it receives. And definitely potent for the practice connected to its symbolic value and themes, like humanity, maybe resurrection, that sort of a thing. Oh, and we're going full circle because apparently Beleg Tall also commented on the Reddit post, lol, with the same joke. And then says that they would probably take the spirit of Newfoundland because, you know, why not? They'd love to integrate their practice with the fun and unique culture and the beautiful landscape. And they have crossed out, not to mention the greatest tinker tech the world has ever seen. So we'll just leave that there. But thanks, y'all. This was fun.
So our discussion question that I just thought of, and feel free to nix this,
Ooh.
literally just based on something ridiculous we were just talking about. What are your best pickup lines / breakup lines? Feel free to share them. They'll probably be entertaining. You can make them pale themed or pact themed, or just tell us, you know, what your best lines are. You know,
I was gonna say
Funny to hear-
definitely extra points for Otherverse.
yes,
themed.
extra points for Otherverse themed lines. We want to see, like, you know, how you know, get your groove on
Heck yeah.
to your
Or
preferred
get your groove
person, you know.
off.
Yeah, like, how do you pick up your chicks or dudes or
Folks.
non-binary crews? I was like, it's kind of close to the thing people say sometimes, but, you know,
Mm-hmm,
I don't know, whatever. Just your peeps. How you get that hottie.
We
Yeah.
want to know. And then how
We
do you
wanna
dump
know.
that hottie?
Yeah, and then how do you dump that hottie for the next hottie? Be like, oh, sorry.
Savage.
We can be friends. While I go score some hot points with that sexy ass mofo over there, you know?
Well, on that note,
I remember, like, I just I remember one pickup line I thought was really funny in, like, junior high or whatever. And I just realized it's probably going to be a little bit hard to describe this, but it's basically like, you know, you're standing next to somebody, and this is really stupid, by the way, but you should already know that. But it's basically asking, if you were a pirate, would you wear your parrot on this shoulder and you gesture at your shoulder, or this shoulder and you put your arm around the person and like on their other shoulder?
oh, that's so dumb.
That's so dumb. I loved it. So there you go, guys. There's a freebie pickup line for you that guaranteed to well, get some kind of a reaction.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mhm.
what else can you ask for, really?
Guaranteed reaction.
You know, any attention's positive attention, right?
Sure.
I mean, not really, but that's what some people think. So if you're one of those people, this pickup line's for you. Okay. It worked in junior high to make people laugh. So, anyway, thanks for listening, everybody. If you enjoyed this episode and you'd like to help support the podcast, please subscribe, share it with your friends, and leave a rating and review. To support our podcast, go to patreon.com/doofmedia. You can also check out our website at doofmedia.com to learn about all the cool shows on the Doof Network. If you'd like to support Wildbow as he continues to write fantastic stories, go to patreon.com/wildbow.
You can follow the pod on Twitter at Pale Comparison, or send us an email at paleincomparisonpod@gmail.com. Keep an eye out for our Reddit thread in r/parahumans, where you can answer our discussion question and share your thoughts on this episode. In addition, if you would like to see all of my predictions laid out, check out our episode description for a link to a prediction tracker.
All right. This is a weird fun fact. And I have not verified this
I was gonna
myself,
say.
but I'm just going to choose to believe it's real because it just seems really funny to me. Apparently, most toilets flush in E flat.
It does make the world a more magical place. If that's
You
true.
know, I feel like it does. And if you Google it, that does come up quite a few times. I don't know if they're real accurate links, but the internet can't lie to you. So,
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, I'm to be fair, most of the time a toilet flushing sounds about the same. So, I'm sure it
Mm-hmm.
has a similar chord. If it's not E flat, what else would it be? I think it's E flat because
Definitely.
that's what they told me. All right. Well, have fun, I guess, analyzing your toilet flushing, everyone, and have a great week.
Bye.